As 2026 keeps on rolling, Pokemon cards have continued to see insane growth. ETB selling for just $50 2 years ago are now selling for $340. Top set chases that were selling for $330 are now selling for over $1,000. What is the reason for that though? Hopefully I can break that down today. First, let's look at when this explosion started. Pokemon cards really picked up again around the time that Surging Sparks released, so roughly the end of 2024. Man, all I wish was that there was some other point of reference we could look at to help explain these price jumps. Sorry, someone's at the door. Wait, could it be? Welcome in, COVID. So glad to see you. As many of you guys know, there was something called the pandemic Pokemon bubble. Spearheaded by social media, stimulus checks, and Logan Paul, tons of people were hyped to buy Pokemon cards. If any of you guys were around the hobby during that time, you'll know about how everyone wanted sets like Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze. It's funny because those are seen as some of the worst Sword and Shield sets nowadays, but during that time, those were some of the most sought after, and scalped, sets. Looking at the Google Trends data from this time, we can see this huge spike for Pokemon cards around September 2020, and we can also see that it pretty much settles around September 2021. Using that timeline, we can see that the pandemic Pokemon bubble lasted pretty much about a year. Now, if you look to the right of that peak, you can see another peak. This peak started in September of 2024, and it's as if it just keeps on growing. Why is this true though? I believe this is due to 4 key points. First, the hype levels. Honestly speaking, the hype now for Pokemon is like nothing I've ever seen before. There's people out there that would probably sell their firstborn just to rip some more Ascended.
Oh, I'd give anything to go.
Open Ascended Heroes.
I'd sell my firstborn son.
There was a lot of hype for Pokemon during the pandemic, don't get me wrong, but as you can see from the graph, it's nowhere near what it is today. Second, the actual cards. The pandemic got Pokemon cards at a pretty bad time. It's as if the pandemic caught the cards with its pants pulled down. The cards in those hype sets were just, honestly, kind of boring. Let's take a look at Vivid Voltage. The chase card from the set is the Rainbow Chonkachu. It's one of the 2 most defining cards of this era, alongside this shiny Charizard VMAX from Shining Fates. The truth is though, they're just kind of boring. Rainbow cards have become so oversaturated that these cards just aren't that cool anymore. During the era, people wanted them because they were the top chase, but nowadays we have so many options that these cards kind of just pale in comparison. Let's take a look at the Chonkachu versus this 151 Pikachu. Now, let's take a look at this shiny Charizard versus this Charizard from Phantasmal Flames. These modern arts, these illustration rares and special illustration rares, are just so much more beautiful, and in my opinion, completely clear the 3D era of Pokemon cards out of the water. My third and fourth point kind of go hand in hand, so I'll talk about them together. Market makers and investor bros. Now I know some of you guys probably don't know what a market maker is, so let's take a trip to the economics corner. Welcome to the economics corner. Today our term is market makers. Using the Investopedia definition, a market maker refers to a firm or individual who actively quotes both sides of a market in a particular security by providing bids and offers along with the market size of each. Market makers provide liquidity and depth to markets and profit from the difference in the bid-ask spread. They may also trade for their own accounts. I know there's a lot of economics mumbo-jumbo thrown into there, but essentially, a market maker is someone who buys cards for 75 to 80% and sells them for 90 to 100%. I wonder if that sounds familiar. Anyways, that's enough of this segment in the economics corner. Yes, I'll admit it. I'm a market maker. Flame me all you want. I'm aware that I'm 100% contributing to the oversaturation of vendors in the hobby right now. It seems like nowadays, everyone and their grandma's a Pokemon vendor. You may be wondering though, why is this a problem? Doesn't this just allow people who actually want the cards to be able to get them for the best price possible? While this is sort of true, having more vendors also artificially inflates the price that a card is worth. I see more and more that vendors mark their cards at 110% of market price, just so they can have some room. The next part of this point is the Poke investors. Nowadays, there's so many people who are buying sealed and just holding onto it. More and more, people are really seeing Pokemon, and cardboard as a whole, as an investment mode. If you look on Reddit for like 10 minutes, you can probably see a picture of some dude's basement that looks like the shelves of a Target, saying, Oh, should I hold for 20 years? During the pandemic, people were mainly either buying to rip or buying to get a quick flip. But now it seems like everyone's in it for the long haul. Again, I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, but it does artificially increase the price of Pokemon cards, especially sealed. If there's less boxes to be bought because people are stashing them away, treating them like a 401k, then there's less singles in the market too. If there's less supply of singles, or in other words, a leftward shift of the supply curve, then you can clearly see that the price of those singles are going to be higher. Okay, so I've established that cards are more expensive now than ever, and they seemingly continue to go up. But what does that mean for you and your cards? Well, I believe that this growth cannot be sustained forever. A sign to me that this has gone too far is when people are buying boxes even though no one wants the cards inside. Let's take a look at Sword and Shield base. A booster box of the set costs about $600 at market. Now, $600 for a box of cardboard is pretty ridiculous. But that must also mean you can get some crazy good pulls from it usually. Is the top chase what? $1,000, $2,000, $3,000? Nope. The top chase in that set is worth $45. Unless you somehow pull this Snorlax VMAX 14 times in one box, you're not going to make your money back on the box. Hell, even if you paid MSRP of $100 on the box, you'd still most likely lose money. Another sign to me is that modern singles printed recently are now fetching insane price tags. Let's take a look at Mewtwo. Printed in Shining Legends in 2017. Wait a minute. 2017 was 9 years ago. Is this set still considered modern? Anyways, in the grand scheme of Jesus' birth to Messi scoring a hat trick in the World Cup, this is considered pretty modern. This Mewtwo in PSA 10 is fetching prices from $9,000 to $10,000. Can you believe that? For $10,000, this card better be signed by a real-life Mewtwo. The truth is that a lot of these high-roller Pokebros and vendors are only in it for the money. And yes, I know, I'm a vendor too. Call me a hypocrite or a scalper or an opportunist or whatever you want. But the truth is that I do have a genuine passion for Pokemon too. I don't even have a problem with people making money. Everyone should be able to get their bag. The problem with vendors only being in it for the money is that it also ends up causing them to flake once they start to see the money dry up. People are clearly getting priced out of cards now, and that hobby money is going to start being spent in other places. Once vendors start to notice this, dominoes are going to start to fall. Now, do I think that the hobby is cooked and everything's going to zero? No, of course not. Pokemon is still the #1 franchise by far in terms of sales. What I do think is going to happen is we're going to see a market correction for a lot of cards in the 20 to 30% range. Cards have pretty much continued to go up for the past year at this point, but that's not sustainable. To help my point, let's look at an example from the actual stock market. I'd like to take a look at this stock. I don't know if you guys have heard of it before. Palantir? Anyways, Palantir stock pretty much didn't drop for almost a year. It seemed like it was going to the moon. Year to date, from the start of January 2025, it went up almost 500%. The truth is, though, that growth was unsustainable. Many people were buying into the hype of this tech company that was utilizing AI and was getting all these huge government contracts. But over time, people started to realize that they had no clue what a Palantir even was. And just a little FYI, the name is based on the Palantir from Lord of the Rings that Saruman uses in Orthanc. But yeah, anyways, this caused the Palantir stock to drop a good 33%. Not because it was worthless, but because many people were buying into something they just didn't understand. And once they saw the first signs of losing money, they cashed out. In the same vein, many people who started collecting Pokemon in the past 2 years have only seen crazy growth. Because of that, they keep pumping money into Pokemon, seeing it as some sort of money tree. Eventually, though, the market will correct. We are already starting to see some dips in product, and I think it's only inevitable that a market correction happens. Again, it's not going to be some sort of doomsday that people are talking about, where Mewtwo's and Crystal Charizards are all of a sudden worthless. People still love Pokemon. Cards are still going to have value. The truth is, though, that right now, there's more opportunists than ever that see dollar signs every time Pokemon is mentioned, and those people are going to continue to price real fans out of the hobby until something happens.